Mother's Day is around the corner. Find the perfect gift for the mom in your life with a stunning piece of jewelry from Blue Nile. From timeless pearls to dazzling gemstones, Blue Nile has something she'll adore. Need it fast? Most items can ship overnight. Plus, enjoy guaranteed free shipping and returns. Don't miss our special Mother's Day deals. Save big on the season's most beautiful trends. For a limited time, get up to 50% off by going to BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Back with another episode of Keeping Current with Kansas City. This is Thad Bell from the Kansas City Soccer Journal. With me, as usual, Daniel Sperry from the Kansas City Star. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm great. As great as one can be when dealing with, toddler things. So,
You know, I've learned that dealing with toddler things will also just get you used to dealing with government things.
mm,
They sometimes make no sense and sometimes throw tantrums.
also, you know, I feel like we're slow, like we're at the defiant stage right now. And so just feel like I'm being prepared for the fraction of what the teenage years will be like.
You know, uh, not that this needs to turn into a parenting pod, but there's always that terrible twos is what people always talk about. A friend of mine gave me his opinion. It was a terrible 2.5 to 3.5, and
Yeah.
and for my daughter it fairly well fit that, right? But then
Yeah.
things settled down and she still had her moments, she still had her meltdowns every once in a while, as did her parents. But honestly, most of the teenage years wasn't that bad because I told her up ahead of time that these are the things you're going to do, these are the things that are going to happen, and these are why, and this is what we will do to respond to that. And for the most part, not that it was all perfect, but it was smoother than many have had. So, so just be prepared, talk to her, be.
You're one of the lucky ones. No, we have done our job of being patient and talking her through it and explaining why she's in trouble at the moment. But yeah, it's fun stuff. It's like, I don't know, parenting, refereeing. Do they go in the same hand? I don't think so.
No.
One's a little bit more authoritarian. Anyways, let's attempt to land this plane back on a soccer runway.
Yep. Apologies to everybody who gets the several minutes sometimes of us not talking about soccer at all. Anyway, this is a pod about Kansas City Current, specifically women's soccer in general, and whatever else comes up. Kansas City Current still undefeated, 5-1-0, depending
Mhm.
on how you want to put the draws. Um,
Yeah.
but a good result off in Angel City.
Yeah. Very good result. I thought, um, the first half was not theirs, for sure. But the right adjustments were made, and I think we can talk about those, as we kind of break down the game a little bit. But ultimately, um, I thought the Current adjusted really well on the fly in a 90-minute spectrum. The Current and the coaching staff adjusted really, really well to being thrown a curveball, maybe for the first time this year, and I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the first curveball, but it was the biggest one.
For sure.
Angel City came out in a different formation than what they expected. Vlaco admitted that they did not expect them to do that. Uh, Three backs, I believe, and it threw them a little bit. Uh, Current, what is this? I think it was the second time they were down this year at all,
Yes, the second time that they've trailed all season long.
which isn't a bad thing for being 6 games in. But
No.
Claire Emsley basically dribbled through the right side of the mid slash defense
Yep.
and pounded a goal home.
Yeah. Not much AD French could do on that. You would have liked to see Ellie Wheeler do a little bit better in that moment. A good learning moment for the rookie too. But yeah, over it was not the best defended scenario. It
No.
pulled Stina way out of position too, and she kind of whiffed on the 1v1 challenge with Emsley, who is red hot right now.
Yep.
I think that's her third straight game at the goal. She's on fire. So you know that's a hard. Sometimes players are just going to get you, and I got them there.
Yeah, I was gonna say Stina could have done a little bit better there too, but not putting all the blame on her by any means. Everybody, I think, on the right side, it's shared a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So they go into halftime, down 1-0, come out of half. Vlaco makes two substitutions. Brings Haley Mason on the right side for Ellie Wheeler and brings Michelle Cooper in for Alexa Spanstra,
Mm-hmm.
who they had played pretty much every minute up till that
Yeah.
point.
Yep.
What did that change?
Well, it did one thing is it put Temwa Chewinga out on the left hand side against a different center back speedster kind of duo combo that they were setting up on that side, and they put her against the slower of the three center backs that Angel City had out there at that point. Madison Curry was doing a pretty good job on that as the left center back, with Alyssa Thompson and Claire Emsley kind of in front of her down that left hand flank. And that left hand flank was where, and the Currents right hand flank was where a lot of Angel City's joy was coming in that first half. And I think Flacco made a really good choice to really solidify the defensive side of that. There's a tactical adjustment that we can go into later, but the substitutions themselves that they made were really much needed. It was good to see Haley Mace as a right back. I thought she looked really good there, better than she has at left back this year.
Yeah, agreed.
Shocking, the naturally right-footed player um, playing right back, but you being able to use the sideline as an emergency or as a safety buffer to the rest of the field worked well for her and made her very comfortable on the ball. She was kind of getting forward in moments too, and driving in and dribbling and cutting in and passing like we've seen her do so many times from that defensive side of the field. But um, you put Haley Mace, who's a very good 1v1 defender, I think at times. I thought last year at times when she was playing right back, or left back, they basically said, you defend Caroline wherever she is on the field, and absolutely shut down Caroline for most of the times that she played her. And that's the league MVP. She did it at times just so later on in the year. So I think there's good stuff for Haley on the right back side, but then Michelle Cooper as well, just being a very physical presence and causing a lot of problems for Alyssa Thompson and Madison Curry on that side. Physical, winning every single duel for the ball because she plays so physical. She got a couple of challenges in there too and kicked a few people around. And boy, I mean, she got 3 or 4 yellow cards in before she actually picked up a yellow card, and I don't think she really should have picked up a yellow card for what she picked up a yellow card for in the long run of it. But
that was accumulation.
It was accumulation of, they say persistent infringement. It was persistent yellow card infringement finally earned her one because the ref was being so lenient on those in those games. And you know, it's one of those moments that's you bring a player on like that when you're getting. I thought the Current were getting outplayed and outmatched physically in the first half, and they swapped physicality. Alexis Spencer and Ellie Wheeler are not dominant physical presences. Haley Mace and Michelle Cooper can be. And that I thought was a really good switch by Flacco on the substitution side. We'll get into more what happened later in the game, but I put up a poll on my Twitter account / X account, whatever. If you worship Elon, then you can call it X. It will still forever be Twitter for me. But I put up a poll, basically asked which of the substitution duos was more important to the Kansas City Currents victory. And I really thought that one was more important than the bringing on of Lola Bonta and Dabinia, just for the sake of stabilizing the game and putting the game in a place where that they would be in control and in the driver's seat. So when those players come on, the soil has been tilled, the seeds have been planted. All right, here's the water, right? Let's make this happen. And so I thought that was, for me, I thought that sub was a very, very heady coaching decision by Vlatko, who is oftentimes criticized for not being either having the mental capacity to make those decisions or if we're just doing them flat out. And so it was a kind of a masterclass there at halftime.
Yeah, that's a really unfair criticism of Vlaco when people make that.
Mm.
Um, he didn't get where he was at by not knowing what to do. Sometimes you don't have the adjustments to make based upon the players you have on the bench, but in this case, he did. You're right. It was a complete night and day from the first half to the second half of how things went, and it basically did set up the possibility for the comeback. And at the, quite honestly, I was going to be happy with the draw once Vanessa scored that banger of a goal, even though she almost got a second one.
Yeah. There's one other kind of change that got made in the game at halftime too, which was a tactical switch to go a little bit more 1v1 man marking across the field. Which if you kind of go back and watch, I thought was actually really interesting how they employed it. And you could see it more at times. Now that I really knew to look for it, I was like, oh yes, I see that now. And it really stabilized because the current, instead of getting overloaded in numbers and playing the zonal system, they were flooding numbers where the Angel City were flooding numbers. And that really stabilized a lot of the advantages that Angel City had been able to create, especially in the wide spaces. They didn't really try to play through the middle on them. They said, well, if we got to play through the middle on you, your midfield's going to kill us. So let's go wide as you push up and overload the boxes and overload the numbers there. And they were successful in the first half, went man to man in the second half, man marking in that instance, and it made a very big difference.
It did. It did. Uh, and then in the 73rd minute, well, let's go back for a second. I mentioned Vanessa scored the banger. That was in the 54th minute.
Yeah,
Assist to Bia.
we could say ho hum, but that was a heck of a shot. It's one of the best long range goals from the current I've seen since I've covered them, I think. But in okay, I take it back. Maybe Claire's goal in North Carolina in her
Yeah,
first
her.
season was pretty nuts. So, but that one was an absolute banger from Vanessa Bernardo.
And very close, a second one just a few minutes later.
Yeah, off the bar.
But then in the 63rd minute, another change. Claire Lavogez came in for Bia. And then in the 73rd minute, Dabinia and Lowe came in for Vanessa and Bailey Feist. At that point, the stage was set for
Mhm.
a nice little comeback in almost the death.
Yeah. One of the other big ones too was Claire Lavogez coming on for Bia, of course, right?
Right.
The double goal score, but uh, in the fact that she was kind of playing this false nine-ish, 10 kind of role, but then ended up being the one doing very strikery things in the goals that she
Yes.
finished. You look at the combo play between Dabinia and Izzy Rodriguez, who I thought played a really good match on the left-hand side, getting back in the starting lineup. Of course, I know last week we were all like, oh, why'd you go with Reagan in the moment? And I know Vlaco midweek had said something along the lines of, well, it's just kind of where we felt the game state and the matchup. It was a good spot to put her in. Izzy starts this week at left back, and it did really well all game. She'll get the assist there on Lavogez's first goal with a perfectly placed. That's the one thing that you and I have said about her all along is she is so valuable for the service that she can provide from wide spaces, whether it's the cross that she can whip in, whether it's low, it's high, doesn't matter where it is. If it's a cutback, it's where it needs to be almost every single time. And that's what happened there with the Lavogez finish. And that finish from Claire Lavogez is hard because you have to almost perfect. You have to almost let it go by the rest of your body before you flick out at it.
Yeah.
You've got to hit it with the outside of your boot and you've got to redirect it towards goal as it's coming across the face of your body. It's a stupid hard finish from an angle like that and incredibly impressive that she was able to score that, which I think just speaks to her technique and ability.
Well, she almost had that flick earlier in the game too.
Yeah, the little scorpion kick, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I was like, that would have been. It would have been
Might have been
amazing,
that might have been a Puskas like world's best goal of the year contender if she pulled off the scorpion kick there. But
but it didn't.
still, no, it didn't. And of course, this one won't make any like season highlight packages necessarily. But my God, that is a very, very difficult finish. It's a striker's finish from a midfielder and a 10. It's just very impressive to me.
Mother's Day is around the corner. Find the perfect gift for the mom in your life with a stunning piece of jewelry from Blue Nile. From timeless pearls to dazzling gemstones, Blue Nile has something she'll adore. Need it fast? Most items can ship overnight. Plus, enjoy guaranteed free shipping and returns. Don't miss our special Mother's Day deals. Save big on the season's most beautiful trends. For a limited time, get up to 50% off by going to BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Well, that's part of the beauty of the current right now is they have a wealth of attackers as
Mm-hmm.
long as they're all staying hot, or
Yeah.
at least some of them are staying hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 90th minute, Claire gets the goal to put them up 2-1. 93rd minute, Claire scores again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and she is just, I think, overwhelmed with emotions by that point.
Yeah. We talked to her after the game. It's been 579 days between goals because of that ACL injury in the playoffs. And um, the last goal she scored was the very last home match of the 2022 season against Washington Spirit. Um, and then the goal that she scored then Angel City, and then only waited 3 minutes later this time around to get to the next goal. So yeah, very good for Claire. Obviously, you could tell she's a very well liked and loved
Oh yeah,
teammate. I think like when she was recovering in France last year, they were so excited just to like have her back in the building. Like over the summer, they were like, "Oh my gosh, Claire's back!" It's like a lift to the spirits around here, but especially considering what the team's going through on and off the field. Last year, she was very missed in the locker room. I think in the early part of the season, and you can see she's every time we talk to her, she's miss overjoyed. I'm just so happy to be here.
yeah.
Even since she arrived, like the injury didn't change that. That's just who she's been. So
That's she's been always one of my favorite players to talk to. Just she's so sweet about everything, loving the game. I forget the question that was asked, but what did it mean? She's like, "This is what we do. This is what we love to do. We love the game." And
yep.
it was just, again, I'm not trying to make fun of her accent in any way, shape, or form, but it was just a really nice moment for her to be so happy.
Yeah, I think it was funny in the press conference. One of her little quips came across. It didn't like the phrase "I'm so happy I could die right now" or something like that, or
Yeah,
"I could die happy right now." Kind of like she tried to get that out, but she just kind of said, "I could die."
yeah,
And like I think Vanessa like lost it, and I started busting up laughing, and I was like, okay, I want to make sure what she meant there. But at the same time it was just very it just kind of, you could just kind of see like the emotion, um the relief, the feeling of, it's not just scoring a goal, it's scoring the goal in the manner that it was and what it meant for the team. And that moment, it's getting that minute, that winner is such a lift off type of feeling. And that, as Vlaco says, the type of confidence boost that players need when they're coming back from injury. I know it sounds dumb, but like going back to Sporting last year, like Alan Polito was bad for a while.
yep,
And then he scored that goal in Seattle, that forced him to do things on his knee that he hadn't been quite trusting of. Did it on turf, no less, and came out of that game unscathed and felt really good. And all of a sudden, he went on an insane goal scoring run through the rest of the season. So, all you need, strikers, goal scorers, they need confidence. When you get moments like that coming back from injury, it really turns the tide in your performances.
yeah. And again, in fairness, I'm calling myself out a little bit here on this. I've sometimes been a little critical of Claire because she almost tries to be too creative at times and not do the simpler thing sometimes. And
Mm,
I mean, it endears people to her for her, trying those things, but maybe she just needs to be deeper in the box more often.
yeah. Maybe if you
That's
get her on the ball in the box, maybe things will happen.
Yeah. So I just really love. I'm very happy for her. So
Yeah.
uh,
Um,
any other
yeah.
takes from the game?
Um, I thought once the current like got control of the game, After it's really kind of after Vanessa's goal, because I thought there was the 10 minutes after the start of the half was a lot of settling and feeling out where the game was going to go for the next half and what was going to happen. All of a sudden, Vanessa's goal really was like the warning shot, and I think Angel City kind of retreated. And they're like, "Oh crap, here they come!" And Temwa got in a few in behind a few times and threatened and all this stuff, and so but like as they once they got control of the game, I was really impressed with Bailey. Not Bailey. Well, Bailey Feist played a good game again too, but Claire Hutton's like tempo
Yes.
driving in the midfield was perfect because at times it was she was at times she was ready to go when it was time to go, and when it was not time to go, she was able to sit on the ball and kind of pick out the passes that could kind of help open up the spaces and stuff. And it wasn't Sergio Busquets, Maestro six, pinging balls in that are amazing, but it was just managing the tempo and the possession and the control over the game that the Current exerted, especially over the last 20 minutes of that game. The way that they played as a whole with Lowe, with Dabinia on the field, you can see how this team has been very much like one gear and it's just been pedal to the floor. But it very quickly showed that this team had a different type of go gear, and it was a very patient, kind of controlling, dominant gear that was like, ooh, like you see more of that, you're going to start seeing some of the 3-4-5-0 type of score lines versus the 5-2s and 5-3s, 5-4s, and that kind of crazy stuff, because that's the kind of stuff that like demoralizes teams. And you have the ball, the opponent doesn't. They don't have the ball, they can't score. And so the ability to maybe defend out of possession was really impressive.
Yeah, it's when they start to just pick the other team apart. When it's not the, oh, we're going to be faster than you thing. It's the, we're just going to play around until we find the right moment, and then we're going to strike. We're going to put the ball into a Bia or a Claire or whoever or a Dabinia, and it's just going to be very entertaining to watch. Back to Claire Hutton for a second. I know I've kind of brought some of these stats up before, but she's still like she's at the top of tackles won, tackles made, tackles won, interceptions in the entire league. Uh, and she did this with a yellow card that she got in, I think, the 28th minute or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not the, I think it was a little bit of an unfair yellow card at that point in the game with some of the other stuff that had happened. But she then managed the rest of the game on a yellow and was still physical and did what she needed to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just very impressed with the 18-year-old in her sixth professional game.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. We were talking about everybody. Uh, we mentioned Stina earlier, that she was in that one
Mm-hmm.
play, but how do you think overall she played in that game?
I thought she played all right. I the current were in so much in possession mode that I didn't really think that they had outside of that. There was a few scenarios here and there where they had to like really defend. She had a ton of clearances in the game too. And so I thought she did well as a whole. You would have liked maybe see a little bit better 1v1 defending in those moments, but defenders, sometimes you get got by good attackers. Claire Emsley is a very good attacker. So it happens. It will happen to even Naomi Girma and some of the best defenders in this league, and has happened and will continue to happen. So one moment you could find if it starts, if it's a routine thing where she's losing 1v1 battles with attackers constantly, then maybe you might be concerned. But I thought she did well in the performance. Of course, it's up to Flacco whether or not he wants to see her on the field there over Elizabeth Ball. I don't think you can take Gabby Robinson off the field right now. So it is right now, between Liz and Elizabeth Ball and Stina, there for that right center back spot.
Another interesting to me, at least, the I'm looking at FBref for these stats right now. The XG for the current was 2.9. The very close to the actual amount of goals scored. I find that kind of interesting because they've well overachieved in most of their games.
Yeah.
Now, can
Yeah.
you continue that through a season? Actually, that's the question I want to try to ask Vlaco this week when we have a chance to just. I don't know his personal belief about XG and things like that because some coaches don't care, don't believe in them. Some follow the stats religiously. I'm not sure about him, but I want to get his take on XG and how much they're overperforming that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Any other last takes out of this game?
Not necessarily out of this game.
There is one thing I want. I never wanted to go cut uh, little clips out for using for memes or anything, but I really want somebody to go get uh, Angel City coach Becky Tweed right at the end of the game, just shaking her head like, "What can I do?"
Yeah.
That was I cracked up. I feel sorry for you, coach, but not too much.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see, we covered that game. Next game upcoming this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, right? Is it Sunday? Saturday.
Sunday. Monster
Noon,
truck rally. Yeah.
yeah.
Noon kickoff. Love it.
Houston
Houston Dynamo.
Dash.
Dynamo was the Dash. It's the same colors, the same stadium, the same ownership,
I know.
same futility. It's very hard to it's hard to kind of separate them at the moment. Anyways, um as life of covering both leagues in which that ownership group has teams. Yes, Houston Dash on Sunday.
They're one win, 3 losses, 2 draws.
Mm-hmm. And they have the worst goal
It's
differential in the league.
yeah, it's a -8 goal differential. Scored 6, given up 14. That sounds like, I mean, not that you can ever know for sure, but this sounds like a day that Temois, Bia, Dabinia, Lowe, everybody should get a goal.
Yeah.
What do you think?
And it's going to end up like a 0-0 draw because that's
Probably.
just how those games work, right?
Yep.
No, I think it'll be an interesting game. It'll be a good game. It could also be kind of one of those trap games. I mean, I don't think the Current look like a team that's going to overlook anybody. But at the same time, you know, this is one of the first teams that was in the league last year that did not make the playoffs that the Current have played all season long. Every single team that they've played except for Bay FC made the playoffs last year, and Bay FC didn't count because they weren't in the league. Arguably, on paper, Bay FC has a better roster than at least 3-4 of the other teams that were in the league last year. So I mean, the Alex Loera injury for them. I digress. We're going too far out of the purview of this podcast. Anyways, the Dash, yes.
Like we always stick to what we're supposed to talk about in this podcast, man. Come on. All right. The Dash, I honestly I wanted to sit down and do a little preview, and I have not had a chance to do that. So, is there anything you want to say about the Dash other than they have given up more goals than anybody else?
Just that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing at times. It's just it's kind of it's been kind of haptic. I mean, they were playing Maria Sanchez at left back. She asked for a trade. There's some turmoil off the field with the head coach or the goalkeeping coach as well, who, of course, same situation as the Current's head athletic trainer, or had a medical, whatever it was.
Yeah, I had a medical.
Um, you know, fired for violation of the non-fraternization policy. The I think it's just one of those things right now for them that it's I don't know if it's going to get worse before it gets better. And if they're still in the getting worse phase, because I don't know how it gets better right now, because there's some chaos with the way the roster's built. There's some chaos with the way the coaching is. There's some clashing between those two. It's
Haven't
just
they
a rough situation.
haven't they brought in a couple of defenders though with the money that they've gotten with the Sanchez trade?
They did. I don't know whether or not Tarcian will be available yet. I don't know if
Right.
she's remotely in the country yet from Corinthians. But and then they grabbed Paige Nielsen from Angel City. I just still, even in the midfield there, there's no shake room. There hasn't been any just kind of consistency from them in terms of who's in the midfield, who's playing consistently. Maria Sanchez is gone, so it's really just Diana Ordonez and Michelle Luzier. So CC Kaiser has not been getting a ton of run for them so far this year, so it's just tough sledding over there. So, like I said, this is a game where the Current should be able to flex their muscle a little bit, but at the same time, this could be a trap game. Maybe the Dash are sick and tired of getting run over and put up a hard fight for 90 minutes. So it'll be interesting to watch for sure. But I would be. This is one that the Current should win, and if they don't, either laugh at NWSL being NWSL and doing the chaotic, unexpected thing, or you just say maybe we have something a little bit to be concerned about with the Current.
Well, there's obviously still things to work on for the Current because they need to solidify the defense a little bit more as we go forward, as we've talked about a little bit. But the Dash are, as bad as they are giving up goals, they're not the bottom of the table. Utah and Seattle are both below them for points. Both of them are not good. But we will, I don't know, we'll see how this goes. We'll talk about it next week. A couple things I wanted to bring up. You mentioned the head medical trainer, the medical, the head of medical. I'm trying to remember the exact
Yeah,
title, but he was let go for the fraternization policy. Uh, so obviously there was some kind of relationship with a player somewhere along the line. I've I've wanted to find out more information, but not to a too personal degree, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
But it just seemed like it was not in the abuse. I mean, it wasn't in the abuse kind of thing. It was a consensual relationship. It was just breaking the law, the rules, and the person was gone. So that sound similar to what you've heard.
that's well,
I'm not trying to defend
yeah,
it. I'm not trying to
no,
defend it.
no,
I'm just
no.
trying to make sure it's not
Yeah, I mean, even then, like the rules, even if the rule even uses the word you may not pursue a
right.
relationship, even if it was a coach, even if it was him sliding into a player's DMs or, um, you know, talking to her in a way that was bad. I mean, I don't know. We don't know the way, very, very clearly we know it was between him and a player. And then there was some sort of relationship that was violating that policy. Whether or not, like, what degree was that? Obviously, none of that stuff is known. So, um, the policy is what it is, though, and you already have one coach that was fired for it, months before, right when the season started, or a little close to the after, something where about those times. And I just think you're looking at the whole situation there, like this is now two examples of folks with this. I don't know necessarily that Rian Wilkinson, the old Portland Thorns coach, broke the fraternization policy, because I don't believe it existed when their whole issue was going on,
Yeah.
but that would have broken said
Right.
issue as well. So there was, there's already multiple instances of this. If you work for a team in a position like that, you cannot do this. There are now 3 examples of people losing their job and being suspended, aka Matt Lamson, for an entire year. Rihanna Wilkinson, I don't know if she will coach in the NWSL again. So like, maybe she will, maybe not. I don't know. But like, it's one of those things, like, you just look at the whole situation. Like, it's very clearly in the rules. Don't do this. So don't cross the line. whether or not it was consensual, all those kinds of
Even
things. Regardless, it's not.
even if
It's
it's
in there.
not
Go do
in
it.
the rules, even if it's not in the rules, it's a line you should not cross when you're
Correct.
a coach affecting a player. It's a power dynamic that doesn't bode
Yep.
well for anybody. And I don't want to, because I try not to be too overly critical, because like I met my wife at work. Okay, we both worked together at one point. We became friends. We started dating. When as soon as I became a supervisor in any way, shape, or form, we got completely as far away as possible in the company as we could. So I had no influence over her. She had never, we'd never talked about work together, that sort of thing. And that's just the way you have to treat those things. And I'm when you're in a small company where you're talking, 20 some odd players, 20 some odd coaches, other people around the team, you just need to, no matter how much you may have an interest, at that point, you have to just walk away from the person or the job, one or the other.
Yep.
Simple.
100%.
Um, it's and again, it wasn't a coach putting pressure as far as I can have heard. It wasn't like a head coach saying, "Hey, I want you to date me." It wasn't anything like that. It seemed to be consensual from what I've heard. If that's wrong, I apologize, but I'm again not trying to defend it because I've clearly said that's wrong. They need to go.
Yeah.
All right. We're getting close to our time. Any
You were saying something about power rankings before we started.
Yeah, I was saw this posted somewhere earlier on Reddit, I believe. Power rankings, ESPN power rankings have the current first, which I not surprising. CBS power rankings do not have the current first. I was a little surprised by that. You?
Yeah. I think, I mean, considering that they had the current 13th below both um expansion franchises to start the season. Uh, Maybe there's somebody that has a vendetta. I don't know. I don't, or doesn't believe in them. I don't know. That's 6 games now. Considering what they're doing, it's kind of hard not to, right?
And 6 games against teams that have been, again, like you said earlier, 5 of those 6 teams were in the playoffs last year, were good teams.
Yeah.
And the one that's not,
Technically 4 of those 5 because one of those games has been against 2 teams.
well, 5 of those games. All right.
There you go.
Um, I never really put a lot of stock in power rankings because I think they're either one just off of whatever the number of points in the table is, or two, they're based upon some fantasy. But anyway, it was an interesting point. I want to keep watching them. I've seen some really stupid power rankings lately.
Yep.
Any last words?
Nope.
Appreciate everybody for listening. Rate, listen, subscribe, whatever, all those things. I can't say it, so do all the things that need to help us grow in ratings. Talk to you later, and we are out.